My passion for music started way before I was 14. In fact, I think I can remember I was about 3, 4, or maybe even 5 years old. My mom then played me a cassette tape recording of the soundtrack of The Sound of Music. That I remembered very well. It was Sound of Music by Rodgers and Hammerstein. It literally took me to a different world, right? And I was so into it that I literally asked my mom to flip the cassette over to the other side over and over again. So that basically started off my first interest of music as far as I can remember. My mom enrolled me into the Yamaha Electron course, and even then I wasn't really paying much attention to whatever was assigned for you to practice. I was trying to figure out the notes from The Sound of Music, trying to play out the notes. Over the years, my parents took me to watch movies, especially all the Disney cartoons. They had a golden period of era of cartoons at that time, ranging all the way from, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King. I quickly realized that the magic of those films isn't from the animation. The magic of those films came from the music, because it made me laugh, cry, feel sad, even when I'm not watching the film. It became something that I was very interested in exploring more. I even told my mom that I wanted to become a musician and a composer when I grew up. They thought of it as a passing remark, but actually I was dead serious. A few years after my O-levels, I was trying to look for somewhere or someone, a place where I could actually pursue my passion and learn more. My then girlfriend wanted to pursue music therapy as well, and it wasn't available in Singapore. So we looked into the US, applied for a few universities, somehow got in. Unfortunately, my parents were not supportive of my career choice. Amazingly enough, my then girlfriend's dad did the most noble thing a person could do. He gave me the money to buy the air ticket so that I could bring her there. And then once I was in the US, I was just hanging out at the cafeteria and just waiting for her to finish class. And then this guy suddenly just came up and scolded me for not being in class. And I just said that, "Oh, I'm not a student here." The guy who was talking to me was Dr. Green, who was actually the head of the music department. And he had personally gone through my application and my audition tape. So I told him that I had no money to to attend this class because it is expensive, obviously. That my parents didn't approve, so I'm not here. I'm just here to chaperone my partner at that time. He said that, "I sense a living soul in your music, and that's why I wanted you in." And he took a lot of effort. I think he fought with his administrative department, and he told me that he brought my application all the way up to the local education department, make an exception, and actually give me an letter of offer. He tried to look for avenues for me to stay and become a student, but he couldn't. If you were an American citizen, all his access to the scholarships were only for their local Americans, and because I was international, his hands are tied. But he asked me to still crash his class, and I did. So every 6 months when my then girlfriend was having her term break, I would visit. I would do my best to visit, save up enough money to visit her. But I would also bring everything I've written for the past 6 months, and Dr. Green would sit me in his office, rip everything apart, destroy it, make me feel like crap, and then reassemble it, everything I've written, and show me how I could have done it better. He would also give me crash courses on everything he thought I needed to learn as a skill set. Dr. Green has recently retired, but every time I do visit, I would take the opportunity to basically teach his students, just as a form, to give back, and just a form to say thank you for all they have done for me. So whenever I start a new project, the first thing that I look into is the script and the story, and everything I write has to serve the story. I see myself more as a script writer that adds on to the script, basically writing the subtext for the story. And what do I mean by that? I actually deep dive into the character, the emotional journey, and the motives of the characters, and as well as the overall arc of the story. Ultimately, my goal is to make sure that the music becomes an integral part of the narrative. I'm a strong believer that experiencing different cultures, living in different places for an extended period of time, and making friends from different parts of the world will broaden your perspective of how you perceive things. The way you perceive how you write music and what you produce would also be reflected in your works. So from that perspective, I believe my music has evolved over time from me living overseas. I recently finished working on a documentary called Taking Venice. It's a very interesting story about how America engineered the win of the 1960s Venice Biennale, which is also known as the Olympic of Arts. Right now, I am also deep in the rabbit hole, working on another documentary, believe it or not, on UFOs. Yeah, that is scheduled to premiere in January next year on PBS America, and then hopefully gets distributed internationally on National Geographic and other channels. But the few things that I really want to get myself into, if I can, is to score for an animated feature film or do more fiction work. The last one I did was HBO's mini-series called Grisey, and it was a whole lot of fun. The other thing that I really want to explore, immersive theater. Last year I had the great privilege for writing the music for an exhibition on Lee Kuan Yew, and that sparked a lot of interest on, hey, how to use music and bring it across different platforms. It's been a tough journey so far, and it continues to be. So there's a lot of hurdles of being a full-time musician or full-time composer. It's not an easy career path. I've felt like quitting and changing careers so many times that I've lost count. It probably happens once every 6 months. I've thought this to myself, like if I enjoy doing what I do on a daily basis, which is writing music, it really doesn't feel like a job. I think it has transcended beyond that, and I think it's now a lifestyle. I'm happy doing it. Is the road ahead going to be tough? I'm sure it is, but this is me. As they say, right? Just keep swimming.